The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. It is a Rivalry Week Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. This show is for college football fans that have taken the over on flag plants this weekend. Haven't seen exactly what that number's at. You haven't either, but you're already taking the over on it. Here's why I love Rivalry Weekend. Here's why we love Rivalry Weekend. In today's college football, it's all about the playoff. It's about the portal. It's about NIL. It's about a lot of things that are very much so different from what we grew up on in terms of the fabric of college football. But Rivalry Weekend, it's a time machine. Rivalry Weekend is about we hate you, we hate your logo, we hate what you stand for, we hate your traditions, we hate your campus, and that's good enough for us to want to beat you. Doesn't matter if there's playoff stakes. Doesn't matter if we're trying to make a bowl game. Doesn't matter if neither of us have won a freaking game. We hate you, so therefore we're going to get up, we're going to play this game, and we're going to make it a very personal matter when we beat you. That is what college football is all about. Before NIL, before the portal, before the playoff got expanded to however many billion teams in the future, it was about passion, it was about pride, it was about pageantry. All that still exists for one glorious weekend that is Rivalry Weekend, that is college football Rivalry Saturday. You got some Friday action here we'll break down. On today's episode, man, predicting some of the biggest games. If you're new to the show, welcome. It's college football, nothing but college football year-round. Make sure you're subscribed. But we're going to give you a couple of predictions for the big matchups, Ohio State, Michigan, A&M, Texas, a little clean old-fashioned hate in Georgia, Georgia Tech, the Iron Bowl. Some predictions for you, but also, on top of that, we got a prediction for what Lane Kiffin might do next. Because remember, a decision coming post-Egg Bowl, whether that's early Saturday, late Friday. We're going to call our shot and tell you what we think Lane Kiffin is going to do when the dust settles on the Egg Bowl on Black Friday. Again, make sure you're locked in. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's get right to the predictions, starting with the BetMGM game of the week. It's the game, baby. Ohio State at Michigan. Ohio State, a 10-point favorite. Does that matter? It didn't last year. 20-plus point favorite last year at the crib. National champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Didn't matter. Lost their 4th in a row to the Michigan Wolverines. Does the script flip this year? You know, because Ohio State, you're going to be in the college football playoff. Doesn't need to be said out loud. You're going to be in the college football playoff. If you want to go back-to-back, you'll have every opportunity to do that. But here's the thing. What's understood doesn't need to be said. Just what I said at the intro of this whole show. Ohio State hates Michigan, and if they lose for the 5th year in a row, the vibes of what was going on in the preseason with, hey, you know, got a squad here that could go back-to-back, hey, the defense and Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith on the perimeter for the offense, there's a lot of pieces here for Ohio State. All the good vibes leading up to this game disappears in a flash. Now, the season isn't a loss, obviously. You go back to last year to go ahead and see proof of that. But this one is personal for both sides on every level, but especially of what Ohio State hasn't done in the last 4 tries. What's understood, like I just said, does need to be said out loud for the Buckeyes, in addition to the whole Big Ten title stakes being there as well. That needs to be mentioned. For Michigan, there should be a certain swagger about you here. You're better than you were last year. Last year, you rolled into this game with 0 quarterback play, still found a way to get it done, throwing for less than 100 yards. There should be a certain swagger, too, because, quite frankly, you've had Ohio State's number. You've won the last 4 in a row. Like I just said when it came to speaking to Ohio State, you prayed for the situation in the preseason, if you're a Michigan fan, didn't you? You said, just get us to that game. Get us to that game with our college football playoff hopes still intact. 1 loss, 2 loss, doesn't matter. Get us Ohio State for 4 quarters, lock the gates behind them, and we'll punch our ticket to the college football playoff. Is that the case in this game? Remains to be seen. The intangibles of this game have to be talked about at the front end. We did our early preview for this game that came out on Sunday, and prepping for that segment, rather, Cade and I were kicking back some ideas as it pertains to key matchups and, what's going to come down to in this game for Ohio State to win, what's going to come down to for Michigan to win. And Cato brought up a great point. He's like, is it really even about football at some level? And he's 100% right. If it was about football, Ohio State would have won last year. If it was about football, Ohio State, you could argue, would have won the last couple of years. But it hasn't gone that way. Why? Because Michigan, when it comes to especially the second half, has been the more composed team, focused team, has been, based on the results, I believe, the more competitively mature team. Does that script flip this year when it comes to what Ohio State brings to the table? All right, now, I think you're a lot bit off base, if you think Michigan's not going to have the intangibles going into this game to go win. So we kind of think that's already spoken for that side of things in Ann Arbor. Sharon Moore, for those keeping track at home, is 2-0 against Ohio State, counting his interim celeb shot that he had a couple of years back. I think for Ohio State, if you're questioning their intangibles, I understand where that comes from. I just personally get a different vibe from this team psychologically. I think the benefit you have in some ways is there's a lot of new pieces and new faces on this football team that aren't carrying the weight of the last 4 years. Like Ryan Day obviously is, but Julian saying he was on the sideline for the loss last year to Michigan. He doesn't know losing to Michigan when it comes to like what he is as a starting quarterback. Like Jeremiah Smith, yeah, you lost last year, but he's not carrying a bunch of weight when it comes to the last couple of years against Michigan and all they've done to Ohio State. Like, yeah, he has some part to play in that, but he's not carrying that weight. 8 new starters on the defensive side of the football. Matt Patricia, new DC. So there's a certain freshness about this Ohio State team that I think actually bodes well for them. And then truthfully, too, just watching this team all year long, I feel like they're a touch less on tilt than they were a year ago. Not saying it's not a good thing, but in this spot, I would actually much rather take the cool, calm, collected vibe of Ohio State, the focused, business-like vibe of Ohio State. We haven't really seen them have a letdown spot all year long. And last year for Ohio State, you had the Oregon loss. You had a couple of slow starts early on in games, like the Iowa game comes to mind last year for Ohio State. There's a couple of just different moments around Ohio State's season a year ago where there was still no way to see the Michigan loss coming when it came to what Ohio State was as an outfit. But I think just overall persona, and again, vibe-wise, I like how this Ohio State team trends a lot better than years past. So, JD, are you saying there's an advantage for Ohio State in this game intangible-wise? I'm not saying that. I just think that is a lot more of an even playing field than it has been in the last couple of years. The matchup I'm watching in this game is the chess between Julian and defensive coordinator for Michigan, Wink Martindale. Because if Julian Sayin has his first blender game of his young collegiate career, this thing is very much so teed up to go how it went a year ago, relative to Ohio State's having trouble moving the football, your quarterback's a little bit frazzled, Michigan then gets to sit back and control the game when it comes to time of possession, they get to wear down Ohio State's offense, or defense rather. Also, offensively speaking for Michigan, Bryce Underwood, he gives you a lot more at quarterback than what you had last year. No knock on Davis Warren, but like we all have eyeballs, right? We've all seen number 19 throw the freaking football. Does it, all the time go where it's supposed to go? Not necessarily, but there's a lot of juice behind that arm, and they've had a lot of weapons step up here in the last couple of weeks for them that we'll touch on here in a matter of moments. But if you look at Julian Sayin and just the track record of Ohio State quarterbacks in this game, this is a jarring stat. Every year since 2022 in this game, an Ohio State quarterback has thrown 2 picks. That's Will Howard, who has a national title to his name. That's Kyle McCord, who led college football in passing the year after he left Ohio State. And that's C.J. Stroud, who you could argue is on the Mount Rushmore of greatest quarterbacks to ever roll through Columbus. So, something about this game presents some weirdness to it for Ohio State quarterbacks. Again, correlation is not causation. I just think that stat needs to be said out loud. Now, do I expect that from Julian Sayin in the spot? Not necessarily. But with how complex Wink Martindale is, how aggressive he is, I'm assuming the things that Michigan has saved for this game, it is very much on the table to see Julian Sayin potentially get a little bit snow globed here, a little bit of the the eyes going all over the place. You're seeing ghosts. One turnover leads to another for Ohio State offensively, and maybe, just maybe, again, we start to see Michigan sit back, control the game, and do the Michigan things they've done the last couple of years that have allowed them to win this game. Now, if Julian Sain is processing it all correctly, right, he's got the goggles on, seeing this whole defense clearly. He is a step ahead of Wink Martindale, dare I say. If that happens, and Julian Sain is, again, seeing it all clearly, processing the defense in real time, he can diagnose like a doctor, deliver like a midwife, man. That's where this whole thing gets rolling. Because the thing with Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith is an Avenger. We've said that many times. But the thing that makes Ohio State extra scary as an offense is the fact that if Jeremiah Smith is covered, you have Carnell Tate. If Carnell Tate is covered, you have Max Clare, who went for over 100 yards last week. If he's covered, you got Brandon Ennis. So Julian Sain's ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and not have a drop-off all that much when it comes to quality of playmaker he's delivering the football to, if he can go from read to read consistently and feel good about his progression, okay now, at the very least, the Ferrari that the Ohio State offense is, the engine is started. And I hate comparing offenses to Ferraris because I think it's overdone and overused, but I think that's Ohio State in this spot, and I think that's very much so on the table if he's processing what Wink Martindale is pitching at him correctly. Now, right in line with that, Ohio State, we can't have the same attitude we had last year offensively. And you know what I'm talking about. We want to be the tougher team. We're the tough guy here in this rivalry. Dude, you got Jeremiah Smith. Throw him the football. Dude, you got Carnell Tate. Get him involved. Jeremiah Smith cannot have 5 catches for 35 yards yet again. Like Ohio State, run your race. Be you. Lean into your own identity. We can't have this thing where we try to prove a point in the spot. Just win the football game. Like, your strengths, it's very obvious, are on the perimeter. Now, you have something in the run game. We'll get on that in a second here. But just understand, Ohio State, the path to winning this game is leaning into your strengths. Like, this game, quite frankly, has been about who can play their brand of ball the best. And I happen to believe that Ohio State has tried to play Michigan's brand of ball, and that's why they've gotten beat the last 4 years. Like, it's no coincidence Michigan has outrushed Ohio State the last 4 years and won this game the last 4 years. Those two things, to me, go hand in hand. So for Michigan offensively, this is going to take the Mary Poppins bag from Chip Lindsey. All right, y'all that have seen Mary Poppins, you know it's an old film. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, let's go to YouTube. Let's go ahead and search this thing up. But the Mary Poppins bag, you reach into that thing, you could pull out an umbrella, you could pull out a vending machine, you could pull out a pizza. You just that bag, it looks a certain way, but it is bottomless. I need that from Michigan in this spot. Okay, because I think against this Ohio State defense, it's going to take some creativity. Now, I say that, you also stick to your principles. Like, you're going to dare Ohio State to be the type of football team in this spot. Because a year ago, there was all this discussion around Ohio State's about to get their anger out from the last couple of years. Jack Sawyer, Tuimoloau out, and, like, it didn't matter. Michigan still was the more physical team and still proved a point in this game and just, quite frankly, out-brute strength what Ohio State was on the defensive side of the football. So you still test that. But I think it's going to take a couple of more prongs to that offensive game plan. Like, I need the Bryce Underwood design quarterback run game that we've been begging for all year long on this show. If you were ever going to do it, this is the spot. It's Ohio State. It's your chance to punch a ticket to the college football playoff. If you're not calling Bryce Underwood's number 10-plus times in this game, when are you going to do it? At that point, then you're just never going to do it, and that's a different discussion to be had. But I think you need to be a little bit creative with how you attack Ohio State's defense because they're just so freaking solid at all 3 levels. I think you got to be a little bit creative in your scheme. So going back to the Mary Poppins bag, kind of the creative Michigan run game. And then now, I don't think a lot of people have realized this nationally because Michigan's played a little bit more of, some lower-key opponents. I don't think Northwestern and Maryland get people out of their seats the same way. They've had some pass catchers step up now. All right, Donovan McCulley's always been solid for them this season, but Andrew Marsh, the true freshman, has come on in a big way the last couple of weeks. I need them to be big when the opportunities are big. Like when Ohio State gets aggressive, and they will be aggressive now. When there's windows downfield to throw to, Bryce Underwood, we got to hit him. Andrew Marsh, we got to make a catch-and-run play there. Donovan McCulley, 50-50 ball, we got to go win that against Igbinosun if we want to win this football game. So, yes, you got to be creative in the run game and find ways to establish yourself, but also plays downfield for those playmakers from Michigan, they have got to be there. They got to win those games, and it's got to happen. So I said this again. It's about playing your brand of ball, and that usually determines the outcome in this game. But at the exact same time, I think your brand of ball plus a counterpunch is really the true equation to winning this football game. Like, Michigan has won this game the last couple of years because of the running game. 100% true. But I think the counterpunch they've had has also been the advantage for them in this game. Like in 2024, it was the run game plus the Michigan defense. Like turning Will Howard over twice. That was the counterpunch. In 22 and 23, it was the J.J. McCarthy vertical passing attack they had available to them, and the fact that they could also call some design quarterback run stuff. That was their counterpunch that allowed them to win those football games. So in this spot now, I think the counterpunch that will ultimately be a deciding factor is the cards Ohio State has held close to the vest when it comes to their ability to run the football. Because you've just kind of loosely tracked the box scores for Ohio State. You've picked up on this. They haven't really overloaded any one running back. And by nature of doing that, haven't really overloaded their offensive line and the demand on them to be violent week in and week out. Like Bo Jackson had a season high in carries last week. I don't think that's a coincidence. It was 19. Hasn't carried the ball more than 20 times this year. I fully expect Ohio State to play their style of ball, but the counterpunch here is the fresh legs and also just the maybe the element of surprise that Ohio State maybe has here when it comes to their ability to run the football. I think being able to do that will put Michigan a touch more off balance on the defensive side of things. Because when you can run the football now, it's tough to make a defense still as creative as they want to be. Now here, I've picked Ohio State in this game the last 4 years. I have been wrong about Ohio State the last 4 years. I went to this game in 2022. This game is as special as there is in college football. I've been to Army-Navy. I've been at this game. Those two, to me, are like top tier in the sport. It is that special. It'll be a special atmosphere. It'll be a special environment. If you're a Michigan fan, you're probably saying, JD, stay on that side. We don't want your pick in this game. I'm listening to you. I hear you. I receive that. I will take your advice. I'll pick Ohio State to win. I'll pick Michigan to cover. So Ohio State wins the ball game in Ann Arbor. They snap the streak. They avoid 5 straight. Final score, Ohio State 27, Michigan 20. And at that point now, Ohio State, the monkey's off the back. Big Ten title game, here we come. And maybe, just maybe, that's a bit of an exhale for the folks in Columbus. And then maybe that allows you to play a touch more free heading into all you have ahead of you in the conference title game and also the college football playoff. And all bets are off at that point. So we'll see. But next up, man, Texas A&M going to Austin, Texas. This is a little Black Friday action, man. I love Black Friday college football games. Weekend of Thanksgiving is phenomenal. 7:30 Eastern. A&M only favored by 2.5. Interesting. Now, why is that, BetMGM? Little Brian Windhorst there for you. Why is that? We'll unpack it right now. Before we do that, though, make sure you're subscribed. If you're a Texas A&M fan, you're a Texas fan, regardless of who you root for. We have content year-round relating to the best sport on the face of planet Earth, so make sure you're locked in. Again, college football, nothing but college football. Make sure you're subscribed. I said this at the intro, but I want to say it again. This game is about hatred. Like rivalry weekend's about hatred, but specifically this one, the Lone Star Showdown, man. There's not a ton of stakes to this one. Like Texas probably missing the college football playoff. Now, far be it for me to just dash the dreams of a 9-3 Texas finding their way in. If you win this game, I suppose it gets a little bit more interesting. I happen to believe that 9-3 probably still leaves you out. So let's just go ahead and assume that Texas is outside looking into the college football playoff discussion. A&M, opposite side of the conversation. You could lose this game, Pat Narduzzi style. You could lose this game 100-0, and you're still a college football playoff team. So the fact that you hate them and they hate you for both sides of this thing, that's why we love it. The fact that we have this rivalry game is everything that is true and right and good about college football. So let's make sure that's said out loud. When it comes to the matchup in this game, my question when watching this thing, at what point when you're watching this game at home, whether it's with the family, eating some leftovers, whether it's with the boys back home for the holidays, at what point do you see Marcel Reed setting his feet? Because we've said this a lot around Marcel Reed. When he is not at a stable platform throwing the football, that ball gets a little bit away from him now. ESPN will flash up this stat semi-regularly whenever they have an A&M game on the broadcast, and they show like his off-target percentage and how it's one of the top in college football. The reason behind that, again, when he does not have his feet set, true to what science is as a quarterback, the ball does not have nearly as much control for a one Marcel Reed. When that happens, turnovers, at the very least, incompletions and stalled drives, But when Marcel Reed has his feet set, like A&M's a freaking wagon of an offense. You maximize the skill players. You maximize the vertical passing game. When that's on and popping, then the run game gets even more attainable. At what point in the game does that happen? Is it the first quarter? And A&M's just like, we're going to score 30 today, Texas. Arch, hope you brought your running shoes, brother, because we're about to get going here. Can you keep pace with us? That's one world. The other world is it's like third quarter, and maybe Texas is up. Maybe it's a world where A&M hasn't really found their footing, pun intended, I suppose, in this game. And Texas is kind of taking it to them a little bit, and they're playing for pride. They got the home field at the back. Maybe all those things are happening, and then Marcel Reed has it click for him. He sets his feet. Good things are happening for A&M offensively. But is that too little too late? I don't know. At whatever point Marcel Reed is able to be comfortable in the pocket and can set his feet and throw, that's where this game begins for A&M, in my humble opinion. Now, in line with that, Texas, they'll get after you now. Okay, that pass rush, big Colin Simmons, how Texas A&M chooses to attack him is going to be a massive part of this game. If it were me now, if your boy was calling the plays, I'm reading him all day long. Hey, Colin Simmons, we don't want to block you out of respect for you. We don't think we can block you play in and play out. We're going to read you. We'll do the screen game around you. We'll do the read option game around you. We'll attack you and pitch off of you. Because Colin Simmons, hear me clearly, he can wreck this game. He can be the reason when you look up at the end of the game and it's triple zeros and Texas is on top and you say, well, wait a second. A&M was undefeated. A&M's got all these skill players. A&M's going to be a playoff team. All this around A&M is there, but Texas had number one. He wrecked the game. That's how the whole thing went. That's on the table here in this spot. I just want to make sure that's all said out loud. Now, I also want to ask this question. Do we see what's happening with Arch, college football public? Do we see the progress he's making? I think some people made the mistake of seeing him play against Ohio State, seeing him play against Florida, and just saying, write him off. That's just last name is Manning. That's why he got his spot in Austin, man. That's why he was invited to the SEC, because of his last name. But we all see through that, right? We all see through that. Now the kid's not any good. Well, since Mississippi State, Arch has accounted for 13 touchdowns, one of those being a receiving touchdown, kind of trailblazing for the Manning family, being the first one to catch a touchdown with that last name. Neither here nor there. A&M's accounted for giving up their own explosive plays. A&M has given up a pass play over 30 yards in every SEC game this year. So for Arch Manning, it's almost like preparation meets opportunity in some ways. I think Texas will have to score to win the game. I don't think it's going to be a rock fight kind of vibe. So for Arch Manning to be trending this way and to be seeing it and playing confident and letting it rip and having his eyes in the right spot, this is a defense now that's good by the numbers, but has shown they are gettable on the back end if he's able to process it properly in real time, okay? So for Texas A&M, it's like Cassius Howe. Here we go now, babe. Can you speed up Arch Manning? Because he is at his best, Arch Manning that is, when the ball is out of his hands quickly. Like the Steve Sarkisian offense, of course, has some deep passing elements. They want to do the deep crosser stuff and all that and attack the back end of your defense. But this version of Texas, with the question marks on the offensive line and the inability to really find rhythm in the run game, they say, Arch, we want catch, rock, throw. We want ball in the perimeter to Wingo. We want quick game to DeAndre Moore. Like, we want you to see it pre-snap, see it in real time in one Mississippi, and then we want the ball out. So if you're Cassius Howe, if you're able to, on the back end for A&M, kind of show some confusing pictures and give him an extra half Mississippi to get home, okay, now this could be a big game for him. This could be the Cassius Howe game where we say, yeah, Sark's a great play caller. Archer's had a great last couple of games. But Cassius Howe sped him up, put him in a blender, and that was just the way this whole thing went. Keep a pulse on that, all right? I think for A&M, the way they attack Texas defensively is really curious. I mentioned Marcel Reed and the whole getting his feet set thing, but A&M is, quite frankly, a run-the-football-first kind of operation. Over 50% of the time, they're putting the ball in one of their ball carriers' hands. And if you watch the Texas-Arkansas game now, couple of things that made you raise your eyebrow a little bit, okay? Going back to by the numbers conversation. Again, by the numbers, Texas is a good defense against the run. But the last couple of weeks, now granted Georgia's baked in there, and so it's kind of a different stat team to deal with when you account for what Texas is as an outfit. They haven't been all that great against the run. And I think the thing that stuck out to me against Arkansas was in those divide the defense kind of runs that Arkansas would do, where it's Taylor Green could keep it, they could hand the ball to one of their backs and get downhill. Texas had a really difficult time sorting that kind of a scheme out.
Now is it a thing where, hey, we saw that last week, so now we're better against that this week? Or is it you got another mobile quarterback who can really make you pay in Marcel Reed. You got a stacked backfield in A&M with Ruben Owens and co. getting after you. It might be same song, second verse. How they handle that could set the table for this game. Because if A&M can run the football, y'all, I don't like anything downstream of that for Texas. Because then explosive plays in the pass game are available. Texas has to roll down safeties to stop the run. Arch is chasing points. Not a great world to live in if you're Texas. But again, if you can stop the run, okay, you put the game on Marcel Reed. That gives Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill and that whole front seven a better chance to speed him up and, again, keep him from setting his feet. Then things start to lean towards Texas. So that'll be a big deal in the spot. The perimeter, to me, is really where the war happens for both sides of this thing. For Texas, like, offensively, what I just said, ball has to get out of Arch Manning's hands quickly. That is a way that you win this football game. Are you about that life when it comes to blocking that A&M secondary? Are you able to make guys miss in space? Are you able to create 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3, manageable down and distance for Sark to cook a little bit? And then at that point, maybe the run game gets some extra life. Now, for A&M's secondary now, like, that's also the question. Are you about that life? Do you wake up with the same bad attitude? Because it's going to be a lot of collisions on the perimeter when Texas has the football that are two position groups in an A&M secondary and a Texas receiving corps that, that's not really the first item on the job description for either side of that thing. It's like, hey, I signed up to go break up passes, and for Texas, I signed up to go catch touchdowns. This is going to be what sets the table for Texas offensively, in my opinion, and then Sark's magic off of that. And then on the flip side here for A&M offensively, Concepcion, Craver, Bethel Roman, like, we wake up feeling shifty. Baker Mayfield's got that post-conference quote, woke up feeling dangerous. Did you wake up feeling shifty, Concepcion and Craver and co? Because if you're able to make guys miss in the open field and do what you've done all year long and turn 5 into 55, okay now. Okay, all bets are off at that point for what you're doing offensively with A&M. And then the Texas defense, like, I'm watching clinic tape all week long of how we break down, tackle in space, get to the football. If we can't tackle in space against this A&M team, it's going to be a long day at the office. Because not only are they having big plays in terms of like them shaking and baking, making you miss, putting you on the highlight tape, and then they go get a first down and more, it also allows like the screen and go game to be there. It allows you to have to put extra numbers probably on the perimeter, or at least extra attention on the perimeter, which then you got some more inside zone game coming at you on the run game, and you got less numbers to account for that. So just like, you hear what I'm saying? It's a big avalanche that could start if you can't tackle in space if you're A&M. And same thing can be said for Texas on the offensive side. There's more that comes for them if they're able to get their physicality edge when it comes to the screen game and Ryan Wingo and all those things alike. All right? So I just have a weird feeling in this game, dude. Got a weird feeling in this game. Yes, it's rivalry weekend. It's two logos that when you put them together, weird stuff is always, potentially going to happen. But that Texas A&M first half against South Carolina, to me, is really hard to forget. It just kind of sits in your stomach a little bit, you know what I'm saying? You don't feel good about life when you watch that first half back if you're an A&M fan, because you say, okay, this is always going to be possible. And South Carolina, quite frankly, unfortunately for the folks in Columbia, isn't even really all that good. If we get down that much to Texas, we might as well kiss winning that rivalry game goodbye. So as weird as I feel, I go back to what do I trust the most in any given college football game? What is it? What are the core principles for you when it comes to picking a college football game? To me, it comes down to two things: line of scrimmage and traits. Who do I trust more here? I think Sark is one of the best coaches in college football, contrary to that ridiculous discussion that started a couple of weeks ago of, should he not call the plays? Is Sark the right, is Sark going to eventually leave? There's a lot of just nonsense out there around Sark in Texas, and I actually trust what he's built there. I think that has some real staying power, and if you don't think that has staying power, I'd go back and look at the past two college football playoff semifinals and see Texas in both those games, all right? Texas has got staying power. I trust Sark. I trust the way he's built things. With that being said, I look at A&M, and I'm like, man, number one sack rate in America against a quarterback that when you speed him up hadn't been all that great this year. Man, top 25 rushing attack. And they're on the doorstep of a perfect season in College Station. And the traits of Mike Elko, as much as you hate the first half against South Carolina, if you're an A&M fan, you love the traits and elite culture moments you saw from them to win that game. So the traits, the line of scrimmage, to me, I think A&M wins. I think A&M covers, but gosh dang, you get the whole seat, man. You only need the edge. I think it's like walk-off field goal territory for A&M. Final score in Austin, A&M 30, Texas 27. So if that number stays at 2.5, I'll take Texas A&M to cover. But if that line grows, we will have a different discussion as that week progresses. But again, A&M wins, A&M covers, walk-off field goal kind of fashion. The perfect season in College Station is yours to have and to hold for the 2025 season, and A&M finds themselves in the SEC title game. Wild times, man. Who would have thought? Like, we thought we were high on A&M in the preseason and took some bullets for it. I did not have A&M going undefeated. Thought they'd be a playoff team. Thought they'd be in that like SEC title discussion in November. Did not have them going 12-0. So if they do what we think they're going to do here based on that prediction, it will be 12-0. And that's just exactly like the 2025 college football season, to present some madness and some things that we did not see coming when we were sitting there in Atlanta at SEC Media Days. But let's stay in the SEC here. Hey, Alabama, college football playoff hopes on the line, going to Jordan-Hare at night. 7:30 Eastern, ABC, Auburn hosting Alabama. Alabama, a 5.5-point favorite. This has like very much so final battle scene vibes for me. Whenever you watch any given like dramatic movie that's got a war at the end of it, this kind of feels like that last scene for Kalen DeBoer and the boys. In the context of this season, you took your lumps early. You had the tough loss to Florida State. You lose a heartbreaker at home against Oklahoma, and it all comes down to the evil Auburn Tigers, if you're an Alabama fan, sticking with the script of this movie. And you got to get through them at your place in a spot that's been very weird to get back to the college football playoff, to put the Kalen DeBoer 9-3 talk to bed. Hopefully he's wearing the black hoodie. If he's not, different discussion. This is that moment for Alabama. If you want it, it's all in front of you, but you got to go through your rival to go get it done. For Auburn, it's the Iron Bowl, man. It's the Iron Bowl, and that is enough. Been a tough year for the folks on the Plains, man. Hugh Freeze gets fired. The Jackson Arnold experience hasn't really gone how you thought it would go in the preseason if you were betting on Auburn doing some good things. Hasn't really been the year you had hoped for or drawn up. But if you can beat Alabama and keep them out of the college football playoff, I don't know if vibes are tremendous the rest of the offseason for Auburn, but tell you what, they're salvaged for that weekend. Hey, it wasn't the year we wanted, but we kept Alabama out of the college football playoff and kept Kalen DeBoer out of the playoff for the second year in a row and setting them into, I don't want to say a tailspin, but there would be tailspin potential here for Alabama as a fan base at least. Just think about the way that they'd be talking on Bama Online's message board. What they'd be saying over there. I think it would be a world that you would like to create for your rival, needless to say, with it being rivalry weekend. Disclaimer on the label for this game. Say what you want about how much better you think Alabama is talent-wise. Say whatever you want about Ty Simpson. Things get weird in this game. I cannot say it enough. Things get weird in this game. It's like whenever you get a hot sauce that says, warning, spicy. Warning, weird stuff happening in this game. Hear me very clearly. Kick 6. You got the Gravedigger. You got Brian Harsin almost beating Bryce Young. If there's not weird in the sport, and it's not defined by that sentence I just told you, I don't know what's weird. Alabama, you know how you turn down weird? You know how you kind of take the volume knob on that and crank it down a few notches? You just go for the throat from the jump. You avoid a weird conversation with a certain person. You knock them out. Don't have to have that conversation anymore. Alabama has been phenomenal all year long, pushing the football downfield. Ty Simpson, I call him the Tyborg because he's borderline robotic with how he's diagnosing defenses. He's had one game where you're like, a couple poor decisions there, Ty. But outside of that, from the Oklahoma game, he's been phenomenal. Ty Simpson should be licking his chops looking at this Auburn secondary. Number 99 in the sport when it comes to yards per pass allowed. Jeremy Bernard, Norma Tech boots all week, brother. Ice baths. Maybe a little contrast if you want to get the legs ready to roll. We're taking Auburn vertical from the freaking jump. Because what I just said, you want to avoid things. Go up 17-0 in the first quarter. See how weird things get from there. See how much Auburn's home crowd is dialed in at that point in time. See how much Auburn as a roster, quite frankly, wants to go out and give it a little extra. At that point, you're already making off-season plans. You're down 20-0 at the end of the first half. I digress. Now, for Auburn, as much as there is like I just said, potential for things to get out of hand early, you can do what Oklahoma did. You can rush the passer. Okay, Auburn, top 25 sack rate in college football. Okay, it's on the table. You can also stop the run, top 5 in college football in yards per carry allowed. Your quarterback, whoever it is, fits the profile of what has beaten Kalen DeBoer since getting to Tuscaloosa. We said it in the early preview segment. Diego Pavia, Thomas Castellanos, Nico Iamaleava, John Mateer, Jackson Arnold, who's on your roster, by the way. All of those quarterbacks have beaten Kalen DeBoer. All of those quarterbacks, what do they have in common? Got some wiggle to them, can call a quarterback design run for them. They can make plays when the play breaks down. All of those kinds of quarterbacks have hurt Kalen DeBoer's defenses. I look at Ashton Daniels, I see that potential. Deuce Knight, again, Jackson Arnold, you already know he can do it. That's on the table here. So if I'm Derek Nix, man, heavy eye candy kind of game here. Heavy eye candy kind of game. Quarterback run is heavy here. I want to control the game and keep Ty Simpson on the sideline as much as humanly possible. And then also, let's just be real about this. You got Cam Coleman. Use him. It sounds much more simple on this side of things than it is, I'm sure, actually drawing up a game plan to get number 8 at the football when everyone knows number 8 can hurt you. But, he has to have a say in this game. I think it's the Avengers. I'm not a big Marvel guy, full transparency, but there's a quote that I know and love and I think applies to this game. Hey, we have an army. We have a Cam Coleman. We have a Hulk. I know you got Bray Hubbard. I know you got Keelan Saab. I know you got Xavier Brown and DeMonte Jackson. You got a Dijon Hill's been awesome. You got a bunch of guys, right? But they have Cam Coleman. He can be the difference for you. He can win the contested catches. He can win the one-on-ones. I find a way to demand attention in the box if I'm Derek Nix with design quarterback run. Might be 15 carries for Ashton Daniels here. Sign up for it. Lull him to sleep. Roll that safety down. And then when we have shots downfield to Cam Coleman, we take them. We capitalize on them. Things get weird. Folks in Jordan-Hare get rowdy. Okay, now. Okay, that might be how this thing goes. Now, the hinge point to me in this game, not the dating app, though if y'all are on that, more power to you. The hinge point to me in this game, I can tell you who wins this game if you were to tell me how effective Bama's play-action game is going to be. Because if Bama's effective in play-action, here's what it means. Obviously, his big plays are happening. That's the first part of this. Yes, Jeremy Bernard's probably scoring. Ryan Williams probably hitting his kick Patowski celebration in the end zone. It's all good vibes if you're Alabama and you're hitting those plays downfield. But that would be set up by Daniel Hill having success on the ground. And Auburn saying, okay, actually, we do have to honor something in the run game here, Alabama. Okay, we do have to maybe be a little bit more violent and a little bit more aggressive and triggering on your run game because Daniel Hill's going for that magic number, I think, is 4 yards a carry. If that is happening now, and those plays downfield are happening, Alabama's scoring points, and also, again, more importantly, you're running the ball enough to chill Auburn's defense out. If you're running the football, Alabama, Auburn's probably not getting after Ty Simpson, speeding him up and forcing him into bad plays. It's probably the most important point in this whole game. If it's ineffective, guess what? It means you weren't able to run the football to make them honor anything in the play-action game. So by that nature, you're one-dimensional against a DJ Durkin defense. Never a good way to live. It also means that at that point, there's some potential for turnovers to go up, which, again, if we're talking about weird things happening, Ty Simpson turning the football over, I think by nature of what he's done this year, would be pretty weird. Only had one pick on his resume going into the Oklahoma game. And you're not running the football well enough for Alabama in that sense either to turn down the weirdness of this game. That, honestly, right in line with the play action point I'm making here. If Alabama can just run the football, maybe you don't cover, maybe you don't feel great about the game. It's kind of like whenever airport security loses your bag but you still get to your destination. If you can't run the football, I don't know if I love your prospects of feeling great after this game. But if you can run the football, even if it's an ugly score, I think you find a way to get it done. Now, at the end of the day here, I just trust Alabama's character too much. Yes, it'll get weird. Yes, Auburn's got a lot of friskiness to them. Yes, there's a path for them to win this football game. But I've seen desperate Bama before. I saw them post Florida State for 8 weeks in a row. They're a wagon and a half. I do think that run game is starting to show itself a little bit more with what Daniel Hill is coming downhill. And I think Alabama bosses up, is mature enough, is businesslike enough to go handle this moment, handle this spot, handle that environment. I think Alabama wins. I think Bama covers. I think it's still a one-score game. I'll take Bama 31-24, but Bama puts all the 9-3 talk to bed around Kalen DeBoer, punch their college football playoff ticket, and once they get into that field here too, all bets are off when it comes to what the Crimson Tide could be in the context of the season. Bama wins, Bama covers. Things get weird, but Alabama rises above to get it done in Jordan-Hare. So we got some more game previews for you. We'll talk clean old-fashioned. Hey, look, Miami-Pitt's going to be a fun one now. Be a real fun one. Pitt trying to punch their ticket to the ACC title game. Miami college football playoff stakes very much so alive for the folks in Coral Gables. But there's another thing we got to predict on this show, and it's not going to happen in the games, but it will happen after the games by nature of what the intel is out of Ole Miss. The statement out of Ole Miss. What's Lane Kiffin going to do next? We'll predict that right now. First things first, make sure you're subscribed. College football, nothing but college football. Whenever Lane Kiffin announces his decision, whether it's I'm going to LSU, I'm going to Florida, I'm staying at Ole Miss, whenever he gives us anything definitive to move off of, we will have a reaction for you on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed. So here's what we know about Lane Kiffin and his status and the whole situation in Oxford as it stands right now. There's a lot of intel and a lot of whispers and rumors. Here's what we know to be true. A decision is coming after the Egg Bowl. Now, is that Saturday morning? Is that Friday night? I don't know. But Keith Carter, AD for Ole Miss, put out a statement, said, me and Lane have had some pretty pointed and direct conversations. We're going to have something clear about his future after the Egg Bowl. Okay, that's one fact. The other fact is Florida, LSU, and Ole Miss are all prepared, and it sounds like have made to some respect, competitive and top-tier offers, both from the financial side of things for Lane Kiffin. Like the report from Ross Dellinger is LSU's offering right around $90 million to get into Baton Rouge. Also, on the roster support side of things, when it comes to NIL and acquiring talent at the top level, sounds like they're all willing to be in that $25 million range. That's also what we know. We also know his family has visited Gainesville and Baton Rouge in the last week or so. So if you thought that the Gainesville and Baton Rouge talk was all just smoke, no, that was a real thing. If you're visiting potential cities you'd live in if your dad took a different job or your husband took a different job, I think that has to be said out loud. Okay, I don't know exactly which members of the family it was, but family members visiting those places during a bye week, not nothing. It's not nothing, okay? Now, I said this already in the What We Know segment around Lane Kiffin, but I want to just rehash it for those that are watching the full show. The further we get into this whole thing around Lane Kiffin not giving Ole Miss a definitive answer, the less likely I feel like he's going to stay in Oxford. Now, full transparency, before this all started, I said, Lane Kiffin, why would you leave Ole Miss? You're winning there. You're going to be a playoff team this year. If you're a playoff team this year with a D2 quarterback, what can't you accomplish in Oxford? Be honest, too. Like, there's a small part of me that, like, was hoping and maybe still hopes he stays at Ole Miss. I think that'd be super fun for Ole Miss. I think it'd be fun for college football to have a guy say, no, you know what? I love those logos and what they are, but I love our logo a whole lot more here in Oxford. I love what I built here. I'm going to stay here. I'm not leaving. That's what I was selfishly a little bit here rooting for, and also kind of just thought was going to happen by nature of what made sense to me. Now, again, as we get further into this, at every turn, Lane Kiffin has had a chance to shut it down and say, I'm staying in Oxford. I'm not leaving. And he hasn't done that. The longer it takes to get an answer, usually the less likely you are to like the answer you arrive with. The examples I've given before are whenever you're interviewing for a job. If you've gone through 18 interviews and sent 24 emails back and forth, and you're sending the majority of those emails, like, you're probably not their first choice for the job, brother. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going to go. In dating, same deal. If you're texting them all the time and they're not texting you, if you're inviting them out a lot of the time, but they're like, oh, I'm busy that Tuesday, I'm busy that Friday, that Thursday. You're busy every single day of the week? What's up? Dude, take a hint here. That's kind of where I arrive on this whole thing with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. I am taking the hints when he jumps on McAfee and is not saying anything about staying at Ole Miss. Okay, we all kind of understand where this whole thing is headed, I think, based on the vibes of it all. Now there's the Lane Kiffin science where you say, yeah, finish the Egg Bowl. He takes the mic. I was never leaving. I'm not leaving. I can't believe you fell for that. Like, that's definitely still in play because it's Lane Kiffin, all right? But there's a certain part of this where you try to account for the Lane Kiffin science of this as much as possible, but also you don't hang your hat on it. So let's go ahead and just assume, based on what I'm reading the tea leaves to be saying here, he leaves Ole Miss. That's how I feel about it, and that's just my take here. So then it becomes, is it Florida or is it Ole Miss? Here's my question when it comes to predicting this thing. How much does the Florida job mean to Lane Kiffin? Speaking to the unquantifiables, speaking to his affection for Steve Spurrier, speaking to his history in the state of Florida, his family ties to the state of Florida, the fact that he coached at FAU, had a lot of success there. How much does just everything that comes with the Florida job mean to Lane Kiffin? Because to keep it a buck now, I think the resources are going to be pretty even across the board. I'd be wildly surprised. Again, we're recording this in real time, so if it changes before he makes a decision, we'll discuss that in real time as well. I'd be wildly surprised if LSU was pitching something that made a difference for Lane Kiffin that Florida wasn't pitching. Again, that's my own feel on this. I don't have intel on that. That's just how it feels to me. The reports are that they're all offering a pretty competitive, top tier, right in the same ballpark kind of contract and roster support. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at on this. How much does the other stuff mean to Lane Kiffin? Because if it's like, man, I want to get back to a place I'm familiar with. I want to get back to a place where my dad coached in that state. Like maybe that's the end-all, be-all. He wants to wear the visor in the swamp and do that, and maybe that's the difference for Lane Kiffin. He ends up being the next head coach of Florida. Like that's the question I have. And if he ends up being the next head coach of Florida, my feel is that will kind of be in line with the logic as to why he would take that job. Removing myself from the trying to quantify what matters to Lane Kiffin discussion. If I'm leaving Ole Miss, a place that I have elevated now to be a college football playoff team, and again, I think you compete for national championships at Ole Miss by nature of what Lane Kiffin's done there. If I'm leaving that, I am walking away from that with the thought process that I'm going somewhere else to win multiple national championships. And so if that's the thought process, I think the best track record for that has got to be LSU. It's not knocking Brian Kelly, but everyone besides Brian Kelly, it feels like, wins a national championship in Baton Rouge. At Orgeron, Les Miles, Nick Saban, obviously. Like that place maybe isn't more ready-made than Florida to win right now based on the roster, because Florida's got a lot of pieces on that roster. Make no mistake about it. You can retain that. You can be a wagon tomorrow. But like over the course of the next couple of years in Baton Rouge, I think Lane Kiffin would be pretty well teed up and supported and in a spot where he can win a national championship. And you got to think, if you're Lane Kiffin, when it comes to taking that job, you'd like to think you take it with the eye of winning more than one national championship. That's not me predicting it. I'm just saying that's probably the thought process if you're a one Lane Kiffin. So going back to what I said, the track record of national championships and the ability to do that and the pattern of doing that, to me, makes me feel like that's where Lane Kiffin will ultimately end up at. Not going off intel, going off vibes, going off of my logic. So my prediction is Lane Kiffin ends up being the next head coach in Baton Rouge and is wearing purple and gold at some point in time before next season. So how does this all play out? Is it game finishes, post-game presser, thanks Ole Miss, says is something he'll think about over the course of the next few hours? Saturday morning, hey, Lane Kiffin's not going to be the next head coach at Ole Miss, and then we get like a couple of weeks down the road and he takes the job at LSU? Or is it game finishes, a few hours later, we got the report, Ole Miss is no longer going to have Lane Kiffin on their staff. He's gone to take the next head coach or the next head coaching gig at LSU. I'm not sure about the semantics of it all. My feeling is it'll probably be I think it'll be more of like a Saturday morning thing, is just my guess, because I have to think things are I think we'll get the news rather that he's not going to be the next head coach or not going to be head coaching at Ole Miss in 2026, and then we'll see what Ole Miss does from there. And then eventually we'll get his next destination. I think we'll get the breakup and then the new destination when it comes to Lane Kiffin. But when it comes to the fit for LSU and Lane Kiffin, it's hard to not see that thing being an absolute rocket ship. And I'll say this, y'all know those couples that are both a little bit outside of their gourd. He's loud, she's crazy, he rides motorcycles. They're both a little bit nuts, right? And on paper, you're like, that can't work. There's no way that can work, right? That fan base with how insane they are, Lane Kiffin, how off the beaten path he is, there's no way that works. But then, like, you see them together, like, oh my gosh, they complement each other so well. They're both so crazy. They're both so different. They're both so outside of the norm to where actually it works perfectly. And I think that would be LSU. The cool factor of Lane Kiffin, the brand of LSU, the skill player history and track record of LSU, and the quarterback track record with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels as of late, and the ability to attract that when it comes to Lane Kiffin and what he could do on the recruiting trail, just the overall personnel on the defensive side that's available in Louisiana, being able to shut down the state of Louisiana and recruit at the highest level. People talk about Brian Kelly being on the beach during the most important times of acquiring talent. They still recruited top 10 class for top 10 class. Lane Kiffin's not going to be on the beach. He's going to be recruiting. How high will LSU finish in the recruiting rankings and the portal rankings? I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make here is it's so crazy and it's so extreme on both sides of this to where I think it would work, and I think it would ultimately equate to both sides of that equation getting what they want. So again, our prediction, LSU ends up landing Lane Kiffin. He's the next head coach. You first get the news he's not going to be back at Ole Miss, and then eventually you get the news that Lane Kiffin is going to be the next head coach in Baton Rouge. Crazy times, man. Crazy times in the world of college football. Cato, this is something you and I have talked about, man, on the air, off the air. Like, it's not just something we talk about on the show. It's legitimately filling our day-to-day conversations, our text message history as well. You got a take here, man, on Lane Kiffin and just the way it all is currently trending for him, whether it be Florida or LSU, or just your thoughts on the situation in general?
Yeah, my biggest take, JD, is I just wish there was a way that he could see this through with Ole Miss and then be able to kind of sort out his options. I don't know if we'll ever exist in the college football landscape and calendar where there's space for roster turnover and coach turnover to be kind of season to season. You'd like that because we're seeing how early these coaches are getting fired. We're seeing the portal got moved to January, but it's still kind of offset from when these coaches are going to be on the move and the playoff. It's kind of a mess, and I kind of hate it for Lane. And thinking more about Lane in this situation, my question for you, JD, is do you think right now, as of Tuesday, he knows what he's doing?
Dude, I don't.
Like, because I don't think I would. Like, I don't. Like, I think trying to balance this year's team being so special, making it as far as they've come, D2 quarterback leading you, looking like through the playoff. I get that there's people in his corner probably telling him LSU is a great job. We see their history. You could be in the playoff / national championship many times in the future at LSU, but I have tunnel vision. Like, I wouldn't be able to look past right now. And you might be able to say, hey, an LSU will make it to the playoff all the time. That's easy to say. Right now, his team is set up to do that. So
Yes.
for me, like Tuesday for me, going into the Egg Bowl, it'd be weighing on me, man. I'm curious if you think he thinks right now he knows his next move or not.
I think Nick Saban brought up a great point on College Game Day where he's like, it's not a Lane Kiffin thing. It's a college football calendar thing. Just to what you said, Cato, it's tough because it puts him in this spot where if he's going to leave Ole Miss, it sounds like LSU and Florida kind of want an answer. Ole Miss obviously wants an answer. And if he's going to not coach Ole Miss next season, do you keep him around for the playoff? And if you're not keeping around for the playoff, what do you do if you're the committee? What do you do if you're on that staff? What do you do if you're that? Like, it opens this can of worms where it's like, who's really at fault here? Lane Kiffin's got to make a decision. These teams want a head coach. You kind of go back to the powers that be when it comes to designing the calendar that makes zero sense, dude. It's just it's a bizarre spot. So to answer your question, I don't think he knows. You're probably prepping for Mississippi State and trying to finish out the season 11-1, right?
Yeah, first keep Mississippi State at that. Yeah, I think it's tough too because we've been talking about Lane a bunch and talking about how he's relishing this a little bit. We think Lane likes the drama. He likes being in the center of attention. He likes being cryptic on Twitter. But even if he wasn't any of that, this is still a very hard decision. And I think that there's a level of empathy I have for him having to make this decision and balancing what he has to deal with right now. But even if it was just like personality and everything aside, like there's not really a great way for him to go about this, being that his team is a playoff contender. Like, unless you're saying like, hey, like Ole Miss, like I'm rocking with you, I'm gonna sign my extension. Very clear he's not doing that, and that's what is kind of opening up people's minds to him going to LSU, like you just predicted, or being on the move, because you'd imagine he would have already said, I'm staying at Ole Miss, because he has that opportunity. But even if he wasn't in the news, if he was just normal coach that's just like very cut and dry, like an old school coach that doesn't have any nuance to his game off the field, I think even still, like, how do you go about this to make all parties involved happy? You can't leave for a better opportunity. Leaving your Ole Miss team mid-season, mid-playoff run isn't a good look. Joining your new team, if you want to eventually leave, you're setting yourself back by staying with Ole Miss through the playoff run. Like, what do you even do? Like, even if he was like, hey, like, I'm not making my decision till we're done playing football. It could work out great if he stays at Ole Miss, but then like if you go 2 rounds and then go to LSU, you're behind the curve. Like, it's hard for him for me to please any, if all parties. Like, it's just a tough spot for him. I hope he just does what's best for him and his family at this point, and hopefully cares less about, like, hey, like, LSU, like, wait. Like, they're not going to have to wait because he's doing this press conference.
Sure.
But to me, the college football schedule alone has put him in a tough spot, and I think thankfully he's kind of equipped to be in a tough spot. He's been in plenty of tough spots in his career, and you just wonder if he's going to be in another one now in this situation where there is a fan base or maybe even two that are upset once he makes this decision. Like, is he going to do this Tennessee style where he's having a press conference to let a fan base know he's leaving, gets a ton of backlash from Ole Miss, vice versa with the other fan bases that are now invested in this, that I think they're in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes? Someone's going to get hurt here is all I'm saying. There's a fan base that's going to be hurt after this, maybe two, maybe all of them if he decides to just roll the dice completely and, like, shock the world and go to the NFL. But in a tough position, think he's equipped for it. Hope he does what's best for him. And, yeah, rooting for this Ole Miss team to stay intact through the playoff because I do think they're a contender.
That's the thing is, like, I'm taking bullets on social media every time I post something about why Kiffin to LSU makes sense for LSU or why Kiffin to Florida makes sense for Florida. It's like Ole Miss fans are just like, are you rooting for this? You want him to leave Ole Miss? Like, no, I'm rooting for him to stay at Ole Miss, dude. I don't want him to leave Oxford. It'd be awesome if he stayed at Oxford and just said, I'm going to keep doing my thing out here and we'll go through the portal and I'll get more money and we'll build better rosters. Like, I don't know. The whole thing is interesting. Cato, here's a question for you, though. I know we got to move on, but I want to get this take from you.
Last one.
What are the odds we get okey doked here, man? What are the odds? I mean, kids flip commits all the time. What if Kiffin, not like intentionally, but like in good faith, says, I got to see this through here in Oxford this season. We've done all this work. It's not fair to the team. I want to just finish through here. If I'm that good a coach, other jobs will be available in the future that I want to take. Like, it doesn't feel right to leave. He says that. That ends up being what comes out on Friday. And LSU is like, great. We'll wait. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure you were more highly recruited than me, so people probably like still were calling your phone after you committed. But it's like, cool, we got time. Like, yeah, we can wait till after the playoff if it means having another chance at Lane Kiffin. Yeah, we'll be right here, Lane. We'll keep on recruiting. We'll keep on knocking down your door. We'll keep on throwing numbers at you. Like, we're fine to wait. And if we get burned, so be it. Blake Baker will be our next head coach, and we'll roll with him for a couple of years. Like, how that feels outlandish. And I don't know that it's like what's going to happen, but I think it's like almost a fourth door that isn't being discussed, probably for good reason. But what do you think the percentage chances are that we see that maybe happen when it comes to Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, and these potential suitors?
Yeah, so for this last one, before we get to the rest of the previews, I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on. Conspiracy Cato's here. So I've thought about this. If I'm Lane Kiffin and I know I want to stay at Ole Miss, and two teams that want my talents are in the SEC, why not drag them along? Like, I would do that. Like, I would try to push it back as far as I can because it's going to impact my competition's coaching search. The coolest press conference ever is if he goes to the mic and says, I really enjoy coaching this Ole Miss team. Shout out the administration. This year has been special, and it's going to continue to be special this year and beyond because I'm not leaving. We're going to win a championship this year. Go Rebs. Like, that's the sickest, like, mic drop moment. Oxford's lit. That would be super cool.
With a visor.
And as a result, by, like, playing this game, like, LSU and Florida are exhausting their resources trying to reach out to Lane's camp, get the right dollar amount, find out backup plans. Like, what if this whole time he just wanted to be the center of attention and is just making LSU and Florida drag their feet, slow them up in their recruiting and their whole process and what they've got going on? That's what I would do. For me, if I knew I was staying at Ole Miss, you can sign the extension or just go to the AD and be like, hey, man, like, ball's in my court right here. If LSU wants to wait, we can keep making them wait through this playoff run. You know what I mean? So that's conspiracy corner for me. But I think that you can't rule anything out with Lane at the end of the day. And I think if it's not Lane Kiffin, we're not having this conversation. Like, if this is about Mike Elko, I'm not going to conspiracy corner about what outlandish things he could possibly do in this situation. He doesn't have a Twitter feed that would make us think that he might have some malpractice here or doing whatever he does to have his way here. So, yeah, man, it's an interesting situation. And I feel like Friday, no matter what the announcement is Saturday morning, whenever he decides to do it after the Egg Bowl, it's going to be one of the bigger moments, I think, in recent college football history. And I feel that way, too, just from watching the Lane Kiffin documentary just recently and seeing how many moments he's already had at press conference between the Raiders and Tennessee and USC. Like, his career has always been interesting, and this might be the most interesting chapter right now in the biggest crossroads. So ready for history to happen, man. We'll see what he does. The decision, as the lower third says, biggest decision since LeBron.
It really is, dude. Or at least it feels that way to me. And when it comes to pre-planned decisions that we're going to get,
For sure.
it's fun, man. Good stuff, Cato. Appreciate that. That's that whole fourth door of if he drags them on, hey, we maybe cause LSU and Florida fall behind the 8 ball when it comes to other options they could have. Also, like, this is another thought, and we'll get to these previews. What if Lane Kiffin just says, I'm not giving you an answer, Ole Miss? What's Ole Miss going to do, fire him? No, Lane, you can't keep coaching. He says, I don't know yet. I'm going to keep coaching. Fifth door. I don't know. There's a lot there, and there's a lot there because it's Lane Kiffin. There's a lot there because it's college football in 2025. College football still has the fastball, and we love it. So in the comment section, let me know you got Kiffin to Florida, to LSU, or is he staying in Oxford? Who knows? Who knows? But we'll find out together. Clean, old-fashioned hate, baby. Black Friday action, 3:30 Eastern, ABC, Georgia Tech. This game should be played on campus. All right, this should be in Bobby Dodd. It should be in Athens, being played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Brent Key doesn't care. Guarantee you Kirby Smart doesn't care, but here we go. Georgia -13, according to BetMGM. Similar to Texas and Texas A&M. This game doesn't really have all that many stakes behind it, like Georgia's college football playoff team, whether they lose this game or not. Georgia Tech, I guess you could talk me into the idea of if they were to beat Georgia, maybe they feel better about their at-large chances. Even that feels like a stretch. At the end of the day, the stakes are pretty low relative to other stakes in the world of college football. That's why this is going to be awesome. That's why this game could also get weird. Because Georgia Tech, you're probably playing pretty free. If you're Georgia, you should be playing with urgency because it's your rival, but it's not going to impact your SEC title hopes, not going to impact your playoff hopes. We'll see. Can Georgia Tech set the table? They're a 57% run-the-football team. Haynes King is a good thrower of the football downfield. He's been good this year, but he's really good when the defense has to account for something in the run game, when Jamal Haynes gets going. When you got that 1-2 punch of Haynes and Haynes, of Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, giving defenses issues. Haynes King, this might be the whatever-it-takes game. Like, they may have to peel Haynes King in what resembles his jersey off of the turf in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for Georgia Tech to win this football game. It might have to be 20 carries. It might have to be him throwing his body around for a conversion on 4th and short. Like, it's going to take every single ounce of Haynes King, as Cato says, Haynes King donating his body to the sport of football for Georgia Tech to win, because in that world now, Georgia Tech winning means they had something on the ground. If you can't run the football, you can't set the table, you can't have explosive plays, it all starts with that. Now, the thing that makes you nervous is Georgia's pretty good up against the run. Just held Texas to less than 100 yards rushing a couple of weeks ago. Like, Georgia, as a front seven, finding their footing. Like, those linebackers are getting downhill with bad intentions, starting to look more and more Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann-ish. Can Brent Key and the boys, can Buster Faulkner and the boys calling the offense, can they create some misdirection and just some, not lack of gap integrity, but maybe just like a couple of extra inches of daylight for that running game to create ideal second and third down situations? Because that's what setting the table would be. Like, setting the table might not be running for 200 yards. It might just be holding the football longer than Georgia, shortening the game, having more possessions, and allowing Haynes King to have more of a say on this game than Gunnar Stockton. Has to be there for Georgia Tech, with it being a spread right around 2 scores, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, you got to be able to find a way to run the football, Georgia Tech. I don't think you beat Georgia left-handed. So, misdirection, eyes getting a little bit undisciplined. We pick up 3.3 yards a carry. People don't know this. 3.3 times 3, first, second, and third down. Go for it on 4th. That's a first down every drive. Quick math. What's this first half look like? Because Georgia Tech, they've started a bit slow through different points in this season, especially against Pitt, which you hate to see if you're a Yellow Jacket fan. Georgia's also had some slow starts this year. Now, it's harder to remember those because in your mind's eye, you have the Mississippi State thwacking. You have the Texas big dog game when it comes to Kirby Smart and what they've done out there. But if Georgia gets leverage in this game, meaning they're up 10-0 in the first quarter, they're up at the half 21-7, kiss of death. Because at that point, Georgia Tech, in the first quarter, they don't have to abandon their run game, but you get to the third quarter, it's 24-10. It's what I just said, 21-7. It's definitively favoring Georgia. They have leverage. They got you in a little sleeper hold. Haynes King throwing his way back into this game is not how Georgia Tech wins. It's not. Now, in the same way, if Georgia starts slow and Tech is able to get momentum and they can play from ahead and they're able to keep you guessing, okay, now we maybe you're checking in with Matt Berry at the half and it's like, wait a second, hang on now. We got some madness in Atlanta. Georgia Tech taking it to Georgia. We'll keep you posted. We'll see you at the half. If that's the update you're getting, things get weird. Rivalry weekend is known for getting weird, that game script. But that's a script that has to happen for Georgia Tech if they want to find a way to win this game. Now, the thing with things getting weird, oftentimes a weird game correlates to your quarterback looking a little bit weird. Can Gunnar Stockton avoid weird? He's done it for the most part all year long. Since his first game at Georgia, going from start number 2, he's thrown for over 60% when it comes to his throws, the completion percentage. Efficient, doesn't really turn the football over. He's been solid all year long. Here's what I like about Georgia, though, when it comes to supporting Gunnar Stockton and their ability as an offense to kind of avoid weird situations. There's a lot of spare parachutes for Georgia, it feels like. Like whenever you jump out of a plane, I've been crazy enough to skydive one time in my life, and the thing that gave me some comfort was, hey, if this first parachute, for whatever reason, has a hole in it, or the idiot packing the thing was an idiot and didn't do it properly, we got like 2 or 3 other parachutes we can pull to make sure we land safely. If Gunnar Stockton looks a little bit weird in the first half, uncharacteristic interception, or Georgia's run game's having issues for whatever reason, or the pass game can't get going, you got the Mike Bobo creativity. You got Gunnar Stockton and his legs to bail you out. If the pass game's having trouble, Georgia can sit back and I believe run the football. I have a very difficult time believing that Georgia Tech can effectively take away every single spare parachute that Georgia has to the tune of them stopping this Georgia offense. All right, now here's the biggest thing I'm worried about. Here's my they tell you in football and just in life it's a good rule, but you never want to go palms up. Okay, for those of y'all listening on podcast, my palms are up like I don't know what's going on. I'm shrugging a little bit. I'm like, I don't know, you tell me kind of posture. You never want to go palms up, but I'm going palms up here when it comes to how I feel about what Georgia Tech's going to do against the Georgia run game. Like Georgia is a walking 200-yard game as an outfit. They're really, I think, found their footing too when it comes to the way they're running the football, when they're pulling their guard, when they're pulling their tackle, they're getting downhill, elephants on parade. They got momentum, and you got to just stand in the gap and be the bigger man, and it's tough to do that against the Georgia offensive line. And Georgia Tech is allowing 5 yards a carry. Gave up 7 yards a carry against NC State. I'm like, man, that is really, really tough for me to get behind when it comes to picking Georgia Tech to win this game. Also, other palms up point here, we all just watched the Pitt game, and that was in Bobby Dodd. You're telling me that Georgia can't do what Pitt just did? Telling me Gunnar Stockton can't recreate at a higher floor level what Mason Heinschel just did to you? And that tight end for Pitt and what Georgia has with Lawson Lucky and Delp, I think it's bad. I think it gets bad in Mercedes-Benz, man. I really do. Last year was awesome. Last year's Georgia, though, was a lot more fugazi, a lot more play with their food, a lot more what are we getting from the dogs this week with Carson Beck giving the football away. That's not this Georgia team. This Georgia team is way more Kirby-ish. They're not going to beat themselves. They're going to stop the run. Georgia's going to win. Georgia's going to cover. Out of respect for Brent Key and the boys out there in Georgia Tech, we are not going to give a final score, but we will take Georgia to win and Georgia to cover on Black Friday. Now, if Georgia Tech wins, that'll be in a hype video. It'll be a promo. Brent Key, I'm sure, will have a lot to say about that, and we will wear that and we'll be wrong. But, again, I don't think that's going to be the case, y'all, by nature of our prediction there. Last game up on the preview side of things for this Prediction Tuesday. We're toying with the idea of giving you a couple other previews because Rivalry Weekend is awesome, and we just love talking college football. So let me know what other games you want to see here. We're contemplating like Oregon-Washington, a little Cascade Clash action. Tennessee-Vanderbilt's got some playoff implications with Vandy trying to be the team that runs the Volunteer State. We'll see. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But conference title implications, playoff implications, noon Eastern, ABC, Miami. Going to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to take on Pitt. A balmy high of 32 for the folks in attendance in this game. Miami living on a prayer, baby, like the great Bon Jovi song. Is it likely you make the college football playoff as an at-large bid? I don't know, but it grows more and more likely each week that you keep on winning football games. Miami's got to get a little bit of help here when it comes to them making the ACC title game outright. But the one thing that has to happen for Miami to be in the ACC title game, the non-negotiable, you got to beat Pitt. So win this game, let the rest of the cards fall where they may, and we'll see what happens after the fact from Mario Cristobal and company. Full breakdown, too, on what Miami needs to make the ACC title game already on this channel, so go check that out. For Pitt, you win this game, you clinch a spot in the ACC title game. All the talk with Pat Narduzzi, pre-Notre Dame, we could lose by 100. They could beat us 110-10. We don't care. As long as we win the next two, we're good. Well, guess what? You won one of those next two already. You win this game, you are in the ACC title game. Now, Miami is a 6.5-point favorite, according to BetMGM. Interesting. Very interesting. Here's my take. Pitt's going to score now. Cade Bell, I keep on talking about him on this show any chance we get when it comes to breaking down a Pitt game because I feel very strongly about this. One of the best offensive coordinators in the sport, one of the best young offensive coordinators in the sport. He was in his bag against Georgia Tech. It was play action. It was putting playmakers in space. It was the zone run game, getting their guys on the perimeter. It was a thing of beauty to watch. I think Miami's pretty good defensively, but I think Pitt's going to get theirs. I really do. Mason Heinschel has been phenomenal to watch all year long for Pitt since he took the job over. Here's what I think is interesting to note when it comes to Pitt. Mason Heinschel has got a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean in him, a little Jack Sparrow in him when it comes to the off-script stuff and break contain and making plays downfield and shaking and baking. He's going to give you, as a viewer of the sport, some here we go plays. You know what I'm saying? Like, he breaks contain, the play breaks down, you're watching the game. Maybe you're not already standing up watching college football. If you are, more power to you. Maybe you get up off the couch, though, when he breaks contain, you say, here we go. Okay, something big's about to happen, whether it's for the better or for the worse. Mason Heinschel's got some gunslinger to him. I love him for it. But what happens in those here we go plays? Is it a Pitt explosive? Is it a turnover? The here we go plays for Mason Heinschel, I think, will go a long way in determining if Pitt defends home field and clinches an ACC title spot or if Miami keeps their playoff hopes alive. Now, I think the cat and mouse here with what Miami does in that front seven is going to be a lot of fun to watch in those here we go plays. Like Ruben Bain, there was a point during this season where I said he would be a Heisman finalist. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, but he's still someone that Pitt has to deal with in this spot. I go back to the Notre Dame game for Pitt, and I keep thinking about how intensely Marcus Freeman and Chris Ash applied pressure to Pitt and how much Pitt had trouble with it. If Miami can recreate that same level of pressure for Mason Heinschel, I think that's a path to favoring Miami. But if it's a thing where Miami just wants to kind of try and sit back and not allow the big play, I think at that point you give Mason Heinschel some real estate to work with. And, any good project manager with some more space to work with, as Mason Heinschel is, good things happen. So keep a pulse on that. Miami's run game, they got to have some of that in this game, obviously, with it being, just a November game. You got to run the football in November to win games. But I think with how good Pitt is in that front seven by the numbers. I know the Notre Dame game kind of skews it a little bit with how good Jeremiah Love is, but you want to help Carson Beck as much as humanly possible going into this spot with what the weather could be and how tough it could be to throw and catch. I'm not questioning so much like will Miami try to run the football. I'm questioning their ability to find timing in the run game. Pitt, they do a lot of stunting, right? They'll loop their defensive end inside and bring their nose tackle out. They'll give you different pictures to work with. As an offensive line, that's a lot to sort out in real time. You got to be really good on your rules when it comes to running the football. You got to be really good on communication in the pre-snap. You got to be really good sorting things out on the sideline. And the reason why I mentioned the timing here, if you're a running back, you have to be able to hit the hole at just the right time within that stunt. If you hit it at the right time, you could gash them. If you try to hit it too early and you press a little bit too quickly because inside zone hits a certain way that you're used to it hitting, but that stunt throws off the timing, can be tackled for a loss, short gain at best. The timing of this in the run game for Miami with what they like to do when it comes to getting downhill, that's going to go a long way, I think, in determining what you ask of Carson Beck. Because, again, if you're hitting that thing at the right time when it comes to how Pitt stunts, could be a lot of big plays. If you can't figure out that timing, it's going to be a lot of unideal down and distance for Carson Beck. Now, I thought about leading with this point because I think it's the most important thing in this game, but I wanted to provide some other context around Pitt and their offense and Miami having run the football. Here's what this whole game comes down to for me. Do we see Carson Beck do first-round stuff, Or do we see him do dumb stuff? We've seen him do both. See the dumb stuff against Louisville, where we're throwing hot and throwing a pick. We throw 4 picks against Louisville. We throw picks against SMU. Or is it the first-round stuff we saw the first month of the season? Or we're like, Carson Beck, is he about to win the Heisman Trophy? Hey, what was Georgia doing with Carson Beck? Because Carson Beck's slinging it right now to Malachi Toney and Keelan Marion. Which do we see more of from Carson Beck? Because it's not a question of ability. I really believe that. I think the dude's got a freaking rifle for a right arm. I think that when he is seeing it correctly, he's able to throw accurate passes. But when he presses, going back to Miami running the football, when he feels like he has to make something happen, we see the dumb stuff. And that's how Miami loses football games. Here's where I fall in this game. Y'all, everything in me wants to pick Pitt. So if Pitt wins the football game, I'll walk in here sheepishly on Sunday, feel a little bit sick to my stomach for having felt one thing and picked another. But I'm looking at Miami, and I'm thinking about what they are this year relative to last year. Didn't last year's Miami, as fun as they were to watch, they gave you a heart attack every time watching them? The cardiac canes, what we called them on this show. Didn't you feel like every single weekend, regardless of if it was Cal, if it was Syracuse, if it was Georgia Tech, whoever it was, you knew you were in for Miami playing a close game? I don't feel the same way watching this Miami team. I don't think I have the same symptoms watching this Miami team with how they could be just like showing up for 2 quarters at a time any given Saturday and give you a great game. I think this team, unfortunately now, for the good folks in the 305, they just have 2 unexcused absences. Didn't show up against Louisville, didn't show up against SMU. Outside of that, they've looked a lot healthier the last couple of weeks. Since the SMU loss, Carson Beck, 0 interceptions, 8 touchdowns. Now, it's not against great competition, don't get it twisted, but it's enough for me to feel like, okay, Miami last year, they scare you a little bit, make you a little bit nervous, make you feel a little bit on edge. So I'll give you my pick in this game in just a matter of moments, but I told you, high of 32 in this game. You know what I'm wearing? I'm wearing Roback, dude. If you're a psychopath, maybe you wear a polo out there. More than likely, though, you're wearing a hoodie. Maybe you're wearing one of their new vests. Okay, I got a fleece from Roback. I'd go double check. That's on the website because it might be sold out. But Roback, the best in the game when it comes to comfortable activewear, when it comes to having a little bit of extra style with your comfort, Roback's got you covered there. So if you hear nothing else, hear this. Roback is going to save all of us money when you use code JD at checkout for first-time customers. No periods, those 2 letters. Code JD at roback.com, RHOBACK.com for 20% off all performance polos, shorts, whatever you're buying on roback.com. Use code JD, your new customer, 20% off. So, appreciate Roback bringing y'all the hard count today and bringing y'all this prediction, bringing y'all this show. Go shop with Roback. They're for us. They're by us. Go make sure you lock in with Roback. There's just too much there for Miami, man, for me to feel good about picking Pitt. Love Pitt. Love Cade Bell. Love Heinschel. Love Narduzzi. I just think Miami is in a different spot than they were a year ago relative to their focus level. I think we see them show up. I think we see Carson Beck deliver the football downfield with authority. I think the run game actually gets rolling too. They find their timing probably as the game progresses and they get a couple of gash plays here against Pitt. I think Miami wins. I think Pitt covers. I think final score is Miami 27, Pitt 21. So just by that half point there, Miami wins by 6, and they keep their college football playoff hopes intact. Cato, this one's going to – the ACC is madness, dude. We keep saying this, probably need to break out the calculator and the quadratic formula to figure out how that whole thing's going to shake out. Getting a little bit more simplistic here, especially if Pitt can win this game. Where did you fall on this one? Because I think you've been ahead of the 8 ball when it comes to fading Miami in November. Where are you at on this one, brother?
Yeah, and I did predict the Pitt win and the SMU win both last week, so I kind of have a little bit of a pulse of the ACC. The weather, this being a Pitt scares me. I do not know who's going to win this game as of right now, but I did want to go through some of the ACC scenarios because you mentioned Pitt controls their own destiny, and they do to a certain extent. So there's actually still 5 teams still in the mix. Virginia is the only one that truly controls their own destiny in the ACC. They could either beat Virginia Tech, who they've notably only beat once in the last 20 years, which is, we'll see if they can do that, or a Pitt loss to Miami also puts Virginia in. So Virginia's in if they win or if Pitt loses. Pitt, they have to beat Miami, and they need SMU or Virginia to lose as well So they need a win and they need a loss from one of those two games because SMU is actually really strong in the three-way tiebreaker with common opponents and things like that. SMU, you have to go to Cal, you have to beat Cal, or Pitt lost to Miami does it for them. So they're in a kind of similar situation with Virginia where they can win or a team can lose and they can get right there. So SMU could be back in the mix just with the Pitt loss to Miami by itself, notably.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of it. So Pitt controls their own destiny, like you said, to a certain extent.
Yes.
But they still need a little sprinkle of something for, you said, an SMU loss or a Virginia loss?
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Miami, still in the mix. They need to beat Pitt, and they need Duke to lose to Wake Forest or Virginia Tech to win. So, like, they need a little bit more. They need a win, and they need two different things to happen. So now we're getting kind of to the territory where you need some dominoes to fall. And Georgia Tech, same thing, not controlling their own destiny. Mm-hmm. They don't play this weekend. They play Georgia. They don't play an ACC game. Mm-hmm. So they need Virginia to lose and SMU to lose to be in the mix. And then last one, Duke, just craziness. They need to beat Wake Forest. They need Pitt to lose and SMU to lose to Cal, and they're actually in the mix there too. So a little crazy, but couple dominoes. A little bit less crazy than the Big 12 last year.
Yeah.
But nonetheless.
Praise the Lord.
Long story short, Virginia's the only team that really controls their own destiny. Pitt and SMU are kind of in the category of need a win and something else to happen. And then Miami, Georgia Tech, Duke are like win your game. 2-3 things need to happen, long story short.
I know Miami got to beat Pitt, need Duke to lose, and then need a Cal beating SMU situation or Virginia Tech beating Virginia situation.
Virginia Tech.
And then things are getting a little bit –
yeah, because
popping.
They lost their SMU head-to-head. So, like, their SMU already has the head-to-head on Miami, so they need those other games to go their way along with their own.
Gosh, dude.
Fun, though.
This is awesome.
All fun.
This is so fun.
All to get a chance to play in that playoff, man, and shock the world. So, excited to see it. Everyone's already counting out this conference. They'll play the 5 seed. They'll play the 6 and get rolled over. Hey, man, whoever wins this conference has played some high-stakes ball for the last couple weeks. So we'll see, man.
They've been in playoff mode for a minute.
For a while,
dude.
For a while.
We'll see what the committee says tonight, too, about Miami and the ACC alike and where they're ranking them. But, Cato, great stuff, as always. Provide the tiebreakers, the takes on the mic, on the 1s and 2s. As always, again, to recap it here, Pitt controls their own destiny to a certain degree. All right? So for those y'all keeping track at home, important note when it comes to annotating that preview. But appreciate y'all making this show what it is. Appreciate y'all being college football sickos and diehards. The sport is changing. Things are moving and shaking. But y'all that have stuck with this show and are really, truly about this college football life, we appreciate y'all and we love y'all for making this show what it is. So again, for Cato, making everything go, for myself, Judy PicKell, we love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.